On behalf of the Gulf Times, I would like to welcome you to Diplomatic Conversations, a space where we celebrate how cultural diversity and embracing cultural communication help build not only stronger people, but stronger nations. My name is Fernanda and I will be your host on this journey that we are taking together. Today, we are honored to have His Excellency Timmy Davis. He is the ambassador of the United States of America to the state of Qatar. Thank you so much for your time, Your Excellency.
I'm happy to be here.
You assumed your position on August 2022. Could you describe how you felt at that time? And after spending over 2 years here, how are your impressions about Qatar and its culture?
Again, thanks for being with me. I have to tell you that I felt honored to have the opportunity to lead our mission here in Qatar. For me and my family, I don't know that any of us ever dreamed that I would be a U.S. ambassador, but to do it here in Qatar, a place that has such importance for the United States, but also for the region, was really a gift. I often tell people that I'm the luckiest ambassador in the world because I'm here in Qatar. The last 2 years have felt remarkable to me. I feel like I have made so many friends, that I am part of the Qatari family. And when you just look at the things that we have accomplished together over the last 2 years, I think people would be hard pressed to find another country that has been more consequential in the last 2 years. And as U.S. ambassador, I'm certain that none of my colleagues has quite had the front seat to history that I've had over the last couple of years.
Your Excellency, regarding the cultural diplomatic environment during these 2 years, the U.S.-Qatar relationship has been very distinctive.
Yes.
And for example, in 2021, the United States was a guest of honors in the Doha International Book Fair. And there was also a memorable American-Qatari musical evening where the U.S. military band performed American compositions along Qatari traditional music. How do you view the cultural exchange between the two countries and its development along time?
So this is a great question because cultural exchange is a central part of what the State Department does around the world. And so it is built on the idea that we will share American culture with our hosts, but that Qatar will also share its culture with us. What I have found over the last couple of years with regard to cultural heritage is that there is already a great deal of overlap in the way our two peoples have developed. I come from a part of the country that is known for oyster farming, for fishing, and that's part of Qatar's history as well, with the pearl divers. And so the more time I spend in this country trying to demonstrate the cultural heritage of the United States and soak up the cultural heritage of Qatar, I find there are so many ways in which we have always sort of had a common history. And so it's a great deal of fun.
Your Excellency, you arrived just in time for the World Cup, and sports are it's a core initiative for Qatar and their sports diplomacy. How do you view the role of sports in strengthening diplomatic relations between the two countries?
So yeah, you note that I got here just before the World Cup. I often joke that the U.S. government should not have paid me for the 6 weeks that the World Cup was here, because I was just like a little kid in awe of the tournament, but also in what Qatar did to create arguably the best World Cup ever. In truth, when you think about the things that divide countries, one of the most basic ones is always language. But sports as a language brings people together, because I have yet to encounter a culture that did not love sport in some way. It's not always the same. It's not always a common sport that drives their enthusiasm, except for maybe football. But everyone knows the passion of supporting their team, supporting their nation, and that opens a door for the rest of diplomacy. If we can agree on our shared enjoyment of a football match, then maybe we can have a conversation about other things, more serious things. And so, to me, the greatest language in the world is sport.
And now that you mention football, we know that you are very passionate about it, actually. Yes. There is one question we wanted to know. If you could look back, and if you could turn back time, would you pursue a career in football, or you would just keep it as free time?
Well, so I think every young person's dream, whether they be a young boy or a young girl at some point, most of us have thought, I want to play this game for a living. Here's the problem with that dream. I don't think I would change anything. You have a limited amount of time to be an athlete, to be at the top of your game. But as a diplomat and as a former U.S. Marine, my ability to serve my country, my ability to make a difference in the world, will last a lifetime. And so I'm quite happy about the choice that I made.
That is so beautiful. Speaking about the cultural through gastronomy, I believe you have diverse taste in food. What do you think about Qatari cuisine? And if any, do you have a favorite Qatari dish?
This is always an interesting question to me because in Doha, you literally have some of the best examples of food from around the world. I have to say, I have enjoyed every bit of Qatari food that I have had. People have heard me talk about my opportunities to eat camel. I was in my office today having a meeting with someone who was at Champs House Shamus in Souk Waqif, and I remember having just the best breakfast there. And so I am only partway through my journey through Qatari cuisine, and I have often asked people to give me ideas about where I should go, and very often they tell me places that are fancy. I hope that folks will see me in parts of the city where I'm unexpected, getting some of the best sort of mom and pop, homegrown, small venue Qatari food, and so the journey continues.
Now we will ask you to share with us more about Ambassador Timmy Davis. Sure. Where did you grow up?
So my dad was a Marine, and so I grew up in North Carolina, lived in South Carolina. I was born in Virginia, just outside Washington, D.C., and so much of my time was spent on the East Coast.
And it's important to ask you because the next question is about the people who see you, and not only young diplomats, but young people that see you and really admire your career. What would you say to them, or what moments shaped your life, and what advice would you give us to the people that we admire you?
So I appreciate your kind words. When I talked about where I grew up, I didn't mention where I settled, and I settled in New Orleans, and folks know I love New Orleans. Here's the advice that I would give people young people in particular, who look at my career and want to emulate it. The way I do my job, which is to represent the United States, is by bringing my whole self to it. If it didn't matter where I was from or how I grew up, they could get anyone to be the U.S. ambassador. But every day I get to wake up and show Qataris and the world what it's like to be a person who grew up in the southern United States, a person who has a particular taste in culture and music, a person whose parents grew up in Mississippi and were the children of sharecroppers. And so I would say that if someone thinks that I do a good job as U.S. ambassador, it is only because I am doing my best to be my true self. I have known some of the greatest diplomats and gotten to work with some of the greatest U.S. diplomats of the last 20 years. Some of my mentors are current CIA Director Bill Burns, Tom Shannon, who was our Undersecretary for Political Affairs, folks like Rena Bitter, who runs Consular Affairs. And I worked for 3 secretaries of state as a special assistant to Secretary Clinton, executive assistant to Secretary Pompeo, and Secretary Blinken. I have been incredibly lucky, but whatever success I've had has been because I have tried to be as genuine and open as I can be, and that I am representing and showing my own part of the United States.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Before we finish, we are very close to Ramadan here
Yes.
in Qatar, and as you know, it's a very special time of the year. How do you experience Ramadan here in Qatar specifically, and do you have any personal tradition during this month?
So I love Ramadan. I will admit that I get exhausted during Ramadan because we maintain our normal schedule, and then sort of the day begins later in the day, and then we're up all night, and I haven't quite built up the resilience yet. But I like to experience all of it. Sahurs, did Garangao last year at Sukwakif. I've gone to iftars in family homes. I've gone to iftars in big halls. I've had the honor of spending iftar with His Highness the Emir. I feel as though Ramadan is like Doha, like Qatar, opening its doors and welcoming in all of us as family. And so I don't know if I have said no to a single invitation to something during Ramadan, because I know that it is not just a cultural experience, it is a religious experience, and the opportunity to demonstrate respect for the openness and the love that Qataris have shown me means that I'm going to say yes every single time. And so I look forward to Ramadan. I fasted last year.
Oh, really? How was that?
I will. Well, again, you gotta get used to it. But I hope to do that again this year. I just think it's important that if I'm going to be a good diplomat, experiencing the culture and the priorities is vital. But I'm looking forward to Ramadan again this year.
That's amazing. Your Excellency, thank you so much for your time, and we hope that we are able to continue to learn from you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.